Mr. Harris stood by the expansive window of his meticulously designed office, surveying the pristine neighborhood that bore the mark of his ambition and hard work. The sight of the manicured lawns, lush greenery, and elegant homes filled him with a deep sense of satisfaction and pride. This exclusive community was the culmination of years of effort, a reflection of his unwavering commitment to creating a haven of luxury and distinction. With a contented sigh, he turned his attention back to his polished wooden desk, its surface adorned with framed photographs of his properties, each image a testament to his success and meticulous attention to detail. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. As Mr. Harris's eyes traced the lines of his desk, he reminisced about the early days of his career, the challenges he faced, and the triumphs he achieved. His fingers lightly touched the wood, worn smooth by years of use, and he thought about the very first building he had purchased. "I've come a long way," he murmured to himself, a satisfied smile curling at the corners of his lips. It was a small acknowledgement of the distance he had traveled from his humble beginnings to his current status of affluence and influence. Mr. Harris had always been a staunch advocate of maintaining high standards. His rental policies were stringent and uncompromising, a reflection of his belief that such measures were crucial for preserving the value and desirability of his properties. He picked up a stack of rental applications from his desk, his gaze scrutinizing each one with a practiced eye. Every application was subject to a rigorous vetting process, ensuring that only those deemed suitable would be permitted to reside in his esteemed buildings. "Can't let just anyone in," he declared firmly to himself, his voice echoing with conviction. "I have to keep things exclusive." As Mr. Harris sifted through the applications, his hand paused over one particular form. His brow furrowed in concentration as he read the name, a look of disapproval crossing his face. With a dismissive shake of his head, he discarded the application into the rejection pile. "No, no," he muttered under his breath. "Can't have any of them here. It would disrupt the entire atmosphere of the community." A fleeting pang of guilt nudged at his conscience, but he swiftly dismissed it, rationalizing his actions as a necessary measure for the well-being of his neighborhood. He convinced himself that his other tenants would prefer not to have black neighbors, adhering to a belief that keeping his community homogeneous was in everyone's best interest. "It's better this way," he reasoned, reinforcing his commitment to his exclusionary policies and the vision he had for his community. Mr. Harris leaned back in his luxurious leather chair, feeling the oppressive weight of the decisions he had to make. The room was filled with the rich scent of the polished mahogany desk and the gleam of opulent decor, a testament to his years of hard work and success. Yet, despite the comfort surrounding him, his mind was troubled. He hardened his resolve, convincing himself that his deep-seated prejudices were justified by his own experiences and achievements. After all, he had built this empire from the ground up, and in his view, he had earned the right to decide who could reside within his properties. "It's my property," he said with a tone of finality, as if trying to convince an unseen audience. "My rules." Meanwhile, across town, the Thompson family was gathered around their kitchen table, brimming with excitement and anticipation. Robert and Lisa sat side by side, their 4 boys, Ethan, Noah, Jacob, and Caleb, clustered around them. The table was cluttered with a stack of papers, the rental application for one of Mr. Harris's properties. The air was thick with hope and dreams of a new chapter. "Boys," Robert began, his voice full of warmth and encouragement, "this could be a significant step for our family. The new house offers more space for all of us to grow and thrive." Lisa, sitting beside him, nodded with eyes sparkling with optimism. "And it's much closer to your schools. Imagine not having to wake up so early every morning." The boys exchanged excited glances, their imaginations already running wild with possibilities. Ethan, the eldest, broke the silence. "Will we each get our room, Dad?" Robert laughed softly, ruffling Ethan's hair affectionately. "Not exactly, son. but you'll have more space than we do now." As Robert diligently filled out the application, Lisa turned her attention to the younger boys. "Noah, Jacob, Caleb, what are your thoughts on the new house?" Noah's face lit up with excitement. "I hope it has a big backyard," he exclaimed, his eyes wide with anticipation. Jacob nodded eagerly. "Yeah, maybe we can finally get a dog," Lisa chuckled, her heart swelling with love and pride for her family. "One step at a time," she said, laughing softly. Caleb, the youngest, climbed onto his mother's lap, his small frame comforting and warm. "Will we still be close to Grandma and Grandpa?" Lisa hugged him tightly. "We'll be a bit farther away, sweetie, but we'll visit them often." As Robert completed the application, he looked up at his family with a mixture of pride and hope. Despite their business success, they had always chosen to live modestly. This move, while still modest by their standards, represented a meaningful step towards a better life for their children. "Now remember," Robert said gently but with firm resolve, "this house isn't guaranteed yet. Mr. Harris has to approve our application." Lisa reached out and squeezed his hand reassuringly. "We've been good tenants everywhere we've lived. I'm confident Mr. Harris will recognize that." The family huddled together, their hopes high and their hearts filled with dreams for their potential new home. They were blissfully unaware of the obstacles that lay ahead, but their love for one another and their unwavering faith in goodness shone brightly, ready to face whatever challenges might come their way. Back in his office, Mr. Harris sat at his polished mahogany desk, surrounded by a stack of rental applications. His fingers, adorned with a heavy gold ring, tapped impatiently on the desk as he sifted through the papers. When he reached the Thompson family's application, his expression darkened. He skimmed through the details with a frown. Robert and Lisa Thompson, 4 boys, their income well above the requirement, their credit scores impeccable. On paper, they were ideal tenants. Mr. Harris's lips tightened into a thin, rigid line as he gazed at the family photo attached to the application in his hands. The photograph, featuring the Thompsons in their warm, smiling unity, seemed to intensify his irritation. Well, he muttered to himself, his voice barely a whisper yet laced with a tinge of disdain. "What do we have here?" He leaned back in his ornate leather chair, the weight of the decision pressing heavily on him. His face, usually so composed, now bore the visible marks of internal conflict. The Thompsons were an ideal match for the property according to every criterion Mr. Harris had meticulously established. They were successful professionals with stable family life, and their references had been nothing short of exemplary. By all accounts, they should have been the perfect tenants. Yet, despite this, there was a factor Mr. Harris found impossible to ignore: their skin color. A voice in the recesses of his mind gently prodded him, suggesting that rejecting them based on race was inherently unjust. It whispered of fairness and equality, challenging his long-held biases. But Mr. Harris forcefully pushed these thoughts aside, deliberately focusing on what he referred to as preserving the character of his properties. "It's about maintaining standards," he said aloud, attempting to soothe his conscience. "It's not personal." With a heavy sigh, Mr. Harris reluctantly picked up his pen and began to compose the rejection letter. He chose to cite vague, somewhat feeble reasons for the denial: concerns about potential overcrowding due to their 4 children, and apprehensions about possible noise disturbances. Deep down, he was acutely aware that these justifications were mere smokescreens, crafted to mask the real motive. As he sealed the rejection letter into an envelope, a pang of guilt pierced through his professional facade. He attempted to dismiss this fleeting discomfort, reminding himself of his past successes and the exclusive community he had painstakingly curated. Yet, the image of the Thompson family, so vibrant and hopeful, remained stubbornly imprinted on his mind. "It's just business," he murmured to himself, trying to rationalize the situation as he dropped the envelope into the outgoing mail tray. Despite his attempts to convince himself otherwise, Mr. Harris found it increasingly difficult to meet his reflection in the office window, his gaze betraying a hint of unease. Meanwhile, at the kitchen table, Robert Thompson sat with his shoulders hunched, the rejection letter from Mr. Harris clutched in his trembling hands. The letter seemed to embody not only the disappointment of the moment, but also a deep-seated frustration. Lisa, observing her husband's distress, approached him and gently placed her hand on his shoulder, offering both comfort and solidarity. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked, her voice tender and filled with concern. Robert looked up at his wife, his eyes reflecting a blend of sorrow and resolve. "Mr. Harris rejected our application," he said softly, his voice barely more than a murmur. "But you know what? We don't need his fancy house. We'll build our own home." Lisa's eyes widened with a mix of surprise and hope. "Build our own home? Are you sure?" she asked, her voice tinged with apprehension. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Robert nodded, a small, determined smile beginning to form on his lips. "Yes, I'm sure. We'll find a piece of land on the outskirts of town. It might not be as grand as Mr. Harris's properties, but it will be ours, something we can build and cherish on our terms." Lisa gently squeezed Robert's shoulder, her eyes sparkling with pride and admiration. "That's my Robert," she said softly, her voice brimming with warmth and affection, always finding a way forward, no matter the challenges. Robert, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and love, rose from his seat and enveloped Lisa in a tight, reassuring hug. "It won't be easy," he murmured into her hair, his voice filled with both determination and tenderness, "but we'll make it work. We always do." Lisa pulled back slightly, her gaze locked with Robert's. Her eyes conveyed both encouragement and unwavering support. "Remember what we always tell the boys," she said with a knowing smile. "When life gives you lemons, make lemonade." Robert's smile broadened, his eyes reflecting the same optimism and resolve. "You're right, honey," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "We can't let this get us down. We'll tackle this challenge just like we've tackled everything else together." At that moment, their 4 boys, Ethan, Noah, Jacob, and Caleb, burst into the kitchen, their faces alight with curiosity. "What's going on, Dad?" Ethan, the oldest, asked, his voice tinged with eagerness. Robert looked at his sons, his heart swelling with a profound mix of love and pride. "Boys," he began, his voice steady and full of purpose, "we're going to build our own house. It might not be the biggest or the fanciest, but it will be ours. And we're going to make it a home, filled with love and warmth." The boys' eyes widened with excitement, their imaginations already running wild with the possibilities. "Can we help?" Dad, Noah asked, his voice filled with enthusiasm. Robert chuckled, his heart warmed by their eagerness. "Of course," he said, his voice brimming with joy. "We'll do it together as a family. Each one of us will play a part in making this house a home." Lisa observed her husband and sons with a heart full of joy and hope. Despite knowing the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, she felt a deep sense of reassurance. Together, they had always managed to overcome obstacles, and this time would be no different. Meanwhile, Mark Harris stepped into the immaculate showroom of Elite Motors, his heart racing with a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. It was his first day at the prestigious luxury car company, and he was eager to embark on this new chapter of his career. The polished cars gleamed under the bright showroom lights, their sleek, aerodynamic lines exuding an air of power and sophistication. As Mark walked toward the reception desk, he felt a swell of pride and accomplishment. He had secured this position through his hard work and determination without relying on any of his father's connections. It was a gratifying feeling to be standing on his merit. "Good morning," a warm and friendly voice greeted him. "You must be Mark. I'm Sarah, the HR manager. Welcome to Elite Motors." Mark's face lit up with a genuine smile. "Thank you, Sarah," he replied warmly. I'm excited to be here and start this new journey." Sarah guided Mark through the building, introducing him to his new colleagues along the way. As they moved through the sleek and modern workspace, Mark couldn't help but notice the unique atmosphere within the company. There was a palpable sense of warmth and camaraderie among the staff, a sense of community that he hadn't anticipated. It was clear that this was not just a place of business, but a supportive and welcoming environment where teamwork and mutual respect were deeply valued. By the end of the day, Mark was brimming with excitement, eager to share his experiences with his father. He picked up his phone and dialed the familiar number, his anticipation palpable. When his father answered, Mark's voice was filled with enthusiasm. "Hey, Dad," he said, "you wouldn't believe how incredible today was. The team here is fantastic, and seeing the cars in person is even better than I imagined. I feel like I'm part of something special." Mr. Harris, on the other end of the line, listened with a tight smile on his face. Though he tried to convey warmth, his voice lacked the genuine enthusiasm he wished he could express. "I'm glad to hear that," Marky replied, trying to mask his reservations. "Just remember to stay focused and give it your best effort." Mark's excitement waned slightly at his father's reserved response. "Of course, Dad," he said, striving to maintain his enthusiasm. "I will. Thanks for your support." As the call ended, Mark felt a twinge of disappointment. He had hoped for more encouragement and affirmation from his father, but he quickly shook off the feeling. Determined to prove himself in his new role, he thought to himself, "This is my chance to make my mark. I won't let anything stand in my way." Weeks passed, and Mark's hard work and dedication began to yield impressive results. His sales numbers soared, earning him the respect of his colleagues. One evening, as he was closing up the showroom, Sarah, a fellow team member, approached him with a warm smile. "Mark, I've been meaning to tell you how much we appreciate your effort. Your dedication is truly impressive." Mark's face brightened at her praise. "Thank you, Sarah. That means a lot to me," he said, genuinely touched by the recognition. As Mark walked to his car that night, he took a moment to reflect on his journey. Despite the challenges and moments of self-doubt, he was carving out a future he could be proud of. The road ahead was still uncertain, but Mark was resolved to face it with courage and confidence, embracing the opportunities and challenges that lay before him. The revelation that would shake Mr. Harris to his core came unexpectedly. One day, Mark approached his father with a look of concern etched across his face. "Dad." Mark began hesitantly. "I need to talk to you about something. I've been working closely with this family, Robert and Lisa Thompson. They're wonderful people, and I just discovered that they were rejected by you." Mr. Harris's face went pale as the weight of Mark's words sank in. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly, betraying his inner turmoil. Mark took a deep breath and handed him a letter, his hands unsteady. "I found this among my things," he said. "It's the rejection letter you sent to the Thompsons. I don't know what your reasons were, but from where I stand, it doesn't seem fair." Mr. Harris stared at the letter, his mind racing as he grappled with the implications of his actions. The truth hit him like a freight train, challenging everything he had believed and forcing him to confront his own biases and the impact of his decisions on others. Mr. Harris read the letter, and with every word his sense of shame deepened, settling heavily on his shoulders. As he read the carefully crafted sentences, he felt a wrenching guilt that pierced through his normally impenetrable demeanor. The rejection he had handed out was not just a denial of a home, it was a reflection of superficial judgments that masked his ingrained prejudices. His gaze shifted toward Mark, whose eyes were now brimming with hurt and disappointment. I didn't realize they were the same family, Mr. Harris murmured, his voice trembling with the weight of his remorse. "I was merely trying to enforce the standards I had set for my properties." The veneer of authority he had worn so confidently was now stripped away, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. Mark's steady gaze, though filled with pain, bore into him with the gravity of the situation. "Dad, the Thompsons are a wonderful family. They deserve better than to be judged by the color of their skin. They were eager and hopeful about the house, and you shut them out without offering them a fair chance." Each of Mark's words felt like a mirror reflecting Mr. Harris's flaws, and a lump formed in his throat as he grappled with the realization of his mistakes. "I was wrong," he admitted, his voice cracking with the strain of his emotions. "I was wrong to judge them based on race." "I'm deeply sorry," marked the vulnerability in Mr. Harris's voice. The rawness of his apology was a stark contrast to his usual resolute demeanor. Mark's expression softened, but the hurt remained evident in his eyes. "I appreciate your apology, Dad. It's a start, but we must make things right. The Thompsons deserve not only an apology but also a genuine opportunity to find a home where they're welcomed and valued." Mr. Harris nodded, tears welling in his eyes as he absorbed the weight of his son's words. "I'll do whatever it takes to make this right," he vowed, his voice filled with a newfound determination. "I'll reach out to them and offer them a place in one of my properties, and I'll do my best to make amends." Mark's eyes, though still reflecting a hint of sadness, brightened with a glimmer of hope. "Thank you, Dad. I know this won't fix everything, but it's a step toward making things right." As Mark left his father's office, he felt a mix of relief and cautious optimism. The road to redemption stretched before them, long and uncertain, but the journey had begun. For both Mr. Harris and Mark, it was a path toward understanding, growth, and healing, fraught with challenges but illuminated by the possibility of change. Later that evening, the Thompson family gathered around their dinner table, their faces bathed in the soft, comforting light of the chandelier. The boys chatted animatedly about their day, their voices a chorus of youthful excitement and energy. Yet, despite the joyful noise, Robert and Lisa were preoccupied, their minds weighed down by the recent rejection from Mr. Harris. The letter had not only dashed their hopes for a new home, but also left a palpable sense of disheartenment. The dream of a better life seemed to drift further away with every passing moment, leaving a void of uncertainty and sadness. The unexpected ring of the doorbell cut through the melancholy, startling Robert and Lisa. Robert rose from his seat, his heart pounding with a mix of confusion and apprehension as he went to answer the door. To his astonishment, Mr. Harris stood on the threshold, his face etched with a deep, genuine remorse. "Mr. Harris." Robert's voice trembled with a blend of surprise and skepticism. Mr. Harris took a steadying breath, his heart racing as he faced the family he had wronged. "I came to apologize," he began, his voice quivering with sincerity and regret. "I made a grave mistake in rejecting your application. It was wrong of me to judge you based on race. I'm here to make things right." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of his realization and the sincerity of his apology. Robert's eyes widened in shock, and Lisa's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes welling up with tears of disbelief and cautious hope. "I'm truly sorry for any hurt I caused, Mr. Harris continued, his tone earnest and full of regret. "I've spoken with my son, and he helped me see things from a different perspective. I want to offer you a place in one of my properties, and I hope you'll give us a chance to make amends." The enormity of Mr. Harris's gesture was both overwhelming and humbling, and the Thompson family stood on the precipice of a new beginning, their hearts filled with a mix of hope, gratitude, and lingering trepidation. The Thompson family exchanged glances, their faces reflecting a mix of emotions ranging from relief to cautious optimism. Robert, after a brief moment of silence, finally spoke up, his voice steady and measured. "Thank you for your apology, Mr. Harris," he said. "It means a lot to us. We'll consider your offer, but we want to be clear that this isn't just about securing a property for us. It's about respect and fairness." Mr. Harris, visibly moved, nodded in agreement. His eyes conveyed a genuine sense of sincerity and regret. "I understand," he said earnestly. "I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust." With that, he departed, leaving the Thompsons to grapple with the unexpected resolution and the complexities it brought. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. In the weeks that followed, the Thompsons experienced a period of significant change and reflection. True to their word, they accepted Mr. Harris's offer and relocated to a new home, one that represented not just a change of address, but a renewal of hope. They poured their efforts into transforming the house into a warm, inviting space, a reflection of their love and dedication. Their new home soon became a haven filled with joy and laughter, embodying their resilience and commitment. For Mr. Harris, this was only the beginning of a more profound journey. He had taken an essential step towards understanding and personal growth, but he recognized that rebuilding trust and reevaluating his beliefs would be a gradual process. As he observed the Thompsons settling into their new life, a flicker of hope emerged within him. It was a small victory, but it marked the start of his efforts to make amends and foster a more inclusive future. Among the many realizations that Mr. Harris encountered during this period, what stood out most was the kindness and approachability of Robert and Lisa Thompson. One afternoon, as Mark, one of the company's new employees, was engrossed in his paperwork, Robert stopped by his desk with a friendly demeanor. "How's it going?" Robert inquired with a warm, genuine smile. Mark, taken aback but pleasantly surprised, looked up from his work. "It's going great, Mr. Thompson," Mark replied. "I'm enjoying the work here." Robert's smile widened. "Please call me Robert. I'm pleased to hear you're settling in well. Lisa and I were hoping you might join us for dinner at our place this Friday. We like to get to know our employees better." Mark's face brightened with enthusiasm. "I'd be honored, sir. Robert. Thank you so much for the invitation." The following Friday evening, Mark made his way to the address Robert had provided. As he navigated his way through a modest street on the outskirts of town, he felt a tinge of confusion. The owners of such a successful company, he had presumed, would reside in a more upscale neighborhood. His confusion deepened as he arrived at a simple, cozy house. It was well-maintained and inviting, but far from the grand estate he had envisioned. Mark double-checked the address to ensure he was at the right place, then approached the front door with a sense of curiosity and apprehension. When he knocked, Lisa Thompson greeted him with a warm and welcoming smile. "Mark, we're so glad you could make it. Come on in," she said, her tone as inviting as her smile. As Mark stepped inside the Thompson home, he was immediately struck by its inviting and homey atmosphere. The house, though modest in size, radiated warmth and affection. He could hear the joyful sounds of children playing from another room, their laughter a testament to the lively and loving environment. Robert emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on an apron that seemed to tell its own story of countless family dinners and cherished moments. "Welcome, Mark," Robert said with a hearty smile. "Hope you're hungry. I've got a mean pot roast in the oven." Mark's surprise was evident, and Lisa's gentle laughter followed. "I know it's not what you expected," she said, her voice warm and reassuring. "But we believe in living simply and focusing on what truly matters." As the evening unfolded, Mark was thoroughly captivated by the Thompsons' genuine warmth and hospitality. They shared stories about their 4 boys, their unique business philosophy, and their dedication to giving back to the community. Sitting down to dinner with the Thompson family, Mark was enveloped by the comforting aroma of Robert's pot roast, which mingled with the sounds of laughter and cheerful conversation. Lisa called out cheerfully, "Boys, dinner's ready." 4 young boys, their faces aglow with anticipation, hurried into the dining room. Mark watched with admiration as they quickly and quietly took their seats, displaying a level of composure and respect that spoke volumes about their upbringing. "Mark, let me introduce you to our sons," Robert said with evident pride. "This is Ethan, our oldest, then Noah, Jacob, and Caleb." Each boy greeted Mark with a firm handshake and a sincere smile, their eyes meeting his with a level of confidence and politeness that Mark found impressive. As they enjoyed their meal, Mark listened attentively to the family's lively conversation. He was struck by the boys' articulate and ambitious aspirations. Ethan, the eldest, spoke passionately about his dream of becoming a doctor. "I want to help people in our community who can't afford health care," he said earnestly, his dedication clear. Noah, eager and enthusiastic, shared his ambition of becoming an engineer. "I'm going to design eco-friendly buildings," he said with determination. Jacob, the quieter and more reflective of the four, expressed his love for writing. "I want to tell stories that bring people together," he said softly, his voice carrying a gentle but profound conviction. Even little Caleb, full of youthful optimism, declared his dreams with a beaming smile. "I'm going to be a teacher like Mom used to be," he said, looking proudly at Lisa. Mark was deeply moved by the Thompsons' genuine love and the supportive environment in which their children were growing up. The family's sense of unity and purpose was palpable, making Mark feel honored to be part of their evening. Mark was deeply moved by the boys' heartfelt aspirations and the unmistakable pride radiating from Robert and Lisa's faces. As he observed the family dynamics during the meal, he was struck by the way the parents wholeheartedly supported each child's dreams. Each conversation was filled with words of encouragement and insightful guidance, weaving a tapestry of love and support throughout the evening. Mark watched as the family's interactions unfolded with an authentic warmth that transcended their modest surroundings. Despite the simplicity of their home, there was an undeniable richness in their relationship, a richness that resonated deeply with him. The boys, without any prompt, eagerly helped clear the table, showcasing a level of responsibility and respect that seemed ingrained in their upbringing. The conversation among the Thompsons flowed effortlessly, characterized by a genuine curiosity and interest in each other's lives, reinforcing the bonds of their close-knit family. As the evening progressed, Mark found himself increasingly at ease within the Thompsons' home. Their hospitality and humility stood in stark contrast to the world he had known, a world of opulence and formality that often felt detached. The Thompsons' genuine warmth and the simplicity of their environment felt refreshing and inspiring, providing Mark with a newfound perspective on the meaning of home and connection. The following evening, Mark attended dinner at his parents' grand residence. The dining room exuded elegance, adorned with crystal chandeliers and fine china, yet Mark couldn't help but draw comparisons to the Thompsons' inviting and unpretentious home. The opulence of his parents' house, though beautiful, seemed distant and cold compared to the heartfelt atmosphere he had experienced the night before. As the meal commenced, Mr. Harris turned to Mark with a curious expression. "So, Mark, how's that new job of yours going?" Mark's face brightened with enthusiasm. "It's going wonderfully, Dad. The company is fantastic, and the owners are truly exceptional people." Mrs. Harris leaned in with interest. "That's great to hear, dear. Tell us more about these owners." Mark's excitement was palpable as he began. "Their names are Robert and Lisa Thompson. They built this company from scratch, and they treat everyone like family. I had dinner at their house last night, and it was such an eye-opening experience." Mr. Harris, momentarily stunned, froze with his fork suspended in midair. He set it down slowly, an uneasy expression crossing his face. Mark continued, oblivious to his father's discomfort. "They have 4 sons, all so well-mannered and driven. The oldest aspires to be a doctor, can you imagine that? And their home, it's not grand or luxurious, but it's filled with love and warmth." Mr. Harris's complexion paled noticeably. He cleared his throat nervously, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. He avoided making eye contact with Mark and Mrs. Harris, sensing her husband's unusual demeanor, inquired with concern, "Dear, are you feeling all right? You seem unsettled." "Mr. Harris took a deep, deliberate breath. "Mark," he said, his voice tinged with strain, "this Thompson family, are they black?" Mark's brow furrowed in perplexity. "Yes, they are. Why does that matter?" The question hung in the air, revealing an underlying tension that Mark had yet to fully understand. The realization struck Mr. Harris with an overwhelming force, like a ton of bricks crashing down upon him. The very family his son had been extolling with such admiration and praise was the same one he had rejected as potential tenants. A deep wave of shame surged through him as he recalled the flimsy and insincere excuses he had used to justify turning them away. The memory of those excuses, now inadequate and hollow, only served to deepen his regret. As Mark continued to share stories about the Thompson family, Mr. Harris found himself drawn in, his initial discomfort gradually giving way to a growing curiosity. Despite the discomfort he felt, he could not help but be captivated by the warmth and success Mark described. The details of their achievements and character painted a picture that was difficult to ignore. "Tell me more about Robert, Mr. Harris said, his tone softer and tinged with a hint of vulnerability. "What kind of businessman is he?" Mark's eyes brightened with enthusiasm. "Oh, Dad, Robert is incredible. He started his company with nothing but a small loan and a big dream. Today, he employs over 100 people and treats them all like family. He's built something really special." Mr. Harris nodded slowly, a thoughtful look settling on his face as he processed this new information. "And the boys?" he asked, trying to shift his focus. "You mentioned they're quite ambitious." "Absolutely," Mark replied with evident pride. "Ethan, the oldest, is already taking advanced classes in preparation for medical school. Noah aspires to become an engineer, and even the younger two are thriving academically." As Mark spoke, Mr. Harris felt a pang of guilt piercing his chest. He had dismissed the Thompsons without giving them a fair chance, solely based on their appearance, ignoring the potential and integrity they undoubtedly possessed. Now, as he listened to the stories of their accomplishments and character, he began to critically examine his judgments and the prejudices that had clouded his decision-making. Mrs. Harris, noticing her husband's reflective demeanor, asked with gentle concern, "What are you thinking, dear?" Mr. Harris exhaled deeply, his voice carrying a tone of remorse. "I'm beginning to wonder if I've made a grievous mistake," he confessed, his words barely above a whisper, laden with regret. Mark looked at his father, confusion etched across his face. "What do you mean, Dad?" Mr. Harris hesitated, grappling with his thoughts before he spoke. "The Thompsons. They had applied to rent one of our properties a while back. I turned them down." Mark's eyes widened in disbelief. "But why? They're such wonderful people." The weight of Mr. Harris's actions bore down heavily upon him as he faced the full extent of his prejudiced decisions. He had allowed his biases to obscure his judgment, potentially denying his community the opportunity to benefit from the presence of a truly exceptional family. "I think it's time for me to reevaluate some things, Mr. Harris said quietly, almost to himself. He met Mark's gaze, his eyes filled with a mix of regret and a newly kindled curiosity. "Tell me more about them, son. I genuinely want to understand." As time went on, a bond developed between Robert Thompson and Mark Harris. Their relationship grew stronger through their work interactions, characterized by mutual respect and shared values. One sunny afternoon, during a break in their busy schedules, Robert and Mark found themselves seated in the company's quaint garden area. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves of a nearby oak tree as they enjoyed their lunch. "You know, Mark," Robert began, his eyes reflecting a genuine warmth, I've been meaning to express my gratitude for your friendship. It's rare to encounter someone who truly appreciates the importance of hard work and kindness." Mark smiled, touched by Robert's heartfelt words. "I feel the same way, Robert. I've learned so much from you in a remarkably short time." Robert nodded thoughtfully, his gaze introspective. "That's what life is really about, isn't it? Constant learning and growing. It's a principle I strive to instill in my boys every day." Curiosity piqued, Mark leaned forward, eager to learn more. "How do you manage that? With all your success, it must be challenging to keep them grounded." If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Robert chuckled softly, a warm, genuine laugh that filled the room with a comforting ambience. "You know," he began, his tone thoughtful and reflective, "it's not always easy, that's for sure. But Lisa and I firmly believe that it's crucial to teach our boys humility and kindness above all else." He took a deliberate sip of water as if to gather his thoughts before he continued. "We could easily afford a much bigger house or flashier cars, but we choose to live simply. Our goal is to instill in our boys the understanding that life isn't about accumulating material possessions. Instead, it's about the values you carry with you and how you treat others." Mark nodded slowly, taking in Robert's words. "That's inspiring," he said, his voice tinged with admiration. "I've observed the way your boys interact with each other and with others, and it's clear that they have genuine respect and care for one another." Robert's smile widened, his pride palpable. "That means a lot to me, Mark. We've always placed a strong emphasis on the importance of family and community. It's one of the reasons we decided to host this dinner and get to know you better. We believe in connecting with others and fostering relationships." As Mark listened, he found himself reflecting on his own experiences. The more he got to know the Thompsons, the more he realized how much his own life had been influenced by his family's choices and values. Growing up, he had been immersed in a world where appearances and status often overshadowed the more fundamental values of empathy and kindness. This realization left him contemplating the significance of what truly mattered in life. Their conversation was momentarily interrupted by the ping of Mark's phone, signaling a new message. It was a text from his father, inviting him over for dinner the following weekend. Mark hesitated for a brief moment, contemplating his response, before typing back a simple "Yes, I'll be there." As Mark and Robert finished their lunch, the conversation shifted to work-related topics, but the impact of their earlier discussion lingered in Mark's thoughts. He found himself looking forward to the upcoming dinner with his parents, hoping it would offer a chance to bridge the gap between their worlds and share the insights he had gained. Later that week, as Mark prepared for the dinner with his parents, he experienced a blend of anticipation and nervousness. He wanted to articulate the lessons he had learned from the Thompsons and discuss his experiences with his father. As he walked through the door of his parents' home, he once again noted the elegant and formal setting, which seemed to contrast with the more personal and heartfelt values he had recently come to appreciate. The meal was pleasant, with polite conversation and refined decorum, but Mark couldn't shake the feeling of underlying tension between him and his father. As dessert was served, Mark decided it was time to address the subject that had been on his mind. "Dad," Mark began cautiously, choosing his words carefully, "I've been meaning to talk to you about something that's been on my mind." "Mr." Harris looked up from his plate, his expression guarded yet attentive. "Go ahead, Mark. What's on your mind?" Mark took a deep breath, summoning the courage to speak openly. "I've been working closely with the Thompsons, and they've taught me so much about the importance of humility and staying true to one's values, regardless of circumstances. Their approach to life has been eye-opening for me." "Mr." Harris shifted in his seat, his discomfort evident. "I see." Mark continued, "I know that you turned them down as tenants. and I want to understand your reasons. They're genuinely wonderful people who've made significant contributions to their lives. I think it's important to reconsider what truly matters in life. Mr. Harris's face flushed with a mix of guilt and defensiveness. Mark, sometimes it's challenging to look beyond the surface. I realize now that I made a mistake, and I'm grappling with that. Mark reached out, placing a reassuring hand on his father's arm. It's never too late to make things right, Dad. Perhaps we can find a way to support the Thompsons and show them the respect they deserve. It could be an opportunity for us to embrace a more compassionate perspective. Mr. Harris looked at his son with a blend of regret and hope, his eyes reflecting a willingness to reconsider. You're right. Maybe it's time to rethink my perspective and make amends. As the evening drew to a close, Mark felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had managed to bridge the gap between his own experiences and his father's understanding, hoping that, in time, his father's views would evolve towards a more inclusive and compassionate outlook on life. In the weeks that followed, Mark dedicated himself to deepening his relationships with both Robert and the Thompsons, as well as working diligently to improve his strained relationship with his parents. This journey was fraught with challenges and required significant effort, but Mark remained resolute in his commitment to fostering understanding and mutual respect in both areas of his life. The Thompson boys' initiative to clean up the local park soon gained traction among other children in the neighborhood. Inspired by their example, more kids joined in, and the park, once littered with candy wrappers and soda cans, was transformed into a pristine space. As the days went by, Mr. Harris observed the positive impact of the Thompson boys' actions on the community. He saw Ethan helping a lost dog find its way home, Noah tutoring younger kids at the library, and all 4 boys actively volunteering at various community events. Each act of kindness and respect they displayed chipped away at Mr. Harris's long-held prejudices. He began to question the deeply ingrained beliefs he had harbored, which had seemed so solid and unshakable just a short while ago. The boys' behavior starkly contrasted with the assumptions he had previously made about their family. One warm evening, as Mr. Harris sat on his porch, he watched the Thompson family strolling together, their laughter carried on the gentle breeze. They paused to assist a neighbor whose car had broken down, working together to push it to the side of the road. Witnessing this scene, Mr. Harris felt a profound sense of shame. He realized that he had unjustly judged the Thompson family based solely on their skin color, overlooking the true measure of their character. His once firm prejudices now seemed fragile and unfounded. Excitement bubbled inside Mark as he approached his parents' house, eager to share some good news. He knocked on the door, his face lit up with enthusiasm. When Mr. Harris answered, Mark couldn't contain his excitement. "Mom, Dad, I have fantastic news, Mrs." Harris appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "What is it, dear?" she asked, curiosity evident in her voice. Mark took a deep breath, his excitement barely contained. "The company is hosting a big event next weekend, and I would love for you both to come. It's a chance for you to meet everyone and see where I work, Mr." Harris's expression immediately soured, concern etched on his brow. "I don't know, son. You know how I feel about these social gatherings." Mark's smile faltered briefly, but he persisted. "Please, Dad, it would mean so much to me. You've always said you wanted to understand my work better, Mrs." Harris gently placed a hand on her husband's arm. "I think it's a wonderful idea. We should support Mark, Mr." Harris glanced from his wife to his son, seeing the hope and eagerness in their eyes. With a heavy sigh and a resigned slouch of his shoulders, he finally relented. All right, we'll go." Mark's face lit up with joy. "Thank you, Dad. I promise you won't regret it." As the day of the event drew near, Mr. Harris's anxiety mounted. He paced around the house, grumbling about crowds and small talk. Mrs. Harris observed him with a mix of amusement and concern. On the evening of the gathering, Mr. Harris stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie for what seemed like the 10th time. His wife approached him from behind, smoothing out his jacket. "It'll be fine, dear," she reassured him. "Mark is so excited to have us there." Mr. Harris nodded, trying to quell his nerves. I know. I'm doing this for him." As they drove to the event, Mark chatted animatedly about his colleagues and the company's recent achievements. Mr. Harris listened in silence, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Upon arriving at the venue, Mark led his parents inside, his eyes scanning the room eagerly. He suddenly spotted Robert and Lisa and waved enthusiastically. "There's Robert and Lisa. Come on. I want you to meet them, Mr." Harris froze, his eyes widening in recognition. There, across the room, stood the very family he had once refused to rent to. His heart raced as Mark guided them towards the Thompsons, completely unaware of the connection. As Mark led his parents through the crowd, Mr. Harris felt his heart pounding in his chest. The crowd seemed to part, revealing Robert and Lisa Thompson standing near a beautifully decorated table. Mr. Harris swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. "Mom, Dad, I'd like you to meet Robert and Lisa Thompson," Mark said, beaming with pride. "They own the company I work for." Robert extended his hand, his face lit up with a warm smile. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. and Mrs. Harris. Mark has told us so much about you." Mr. Harris hesitated momentarily before taking Robert's hand. The handshake was firm and genuine, catching him off guard. Likewise, he managed to reply, his voice barely above a whisper. Lisa stepped forward, her eyes sparkling with kindness. "We're so glad you could join us tonight. Mark is such a wonderful addition to our team." As they exchanged pleasantries, Mr. Harris couldn't help but notice the respect and admiration that others in the room showed toward Robert and Lisa. Employees approached the Thompsons with ease, sharing jokes and stories. A young intern hurried over to Robert, looking flustered. "Mr. Thompson, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we have a small issue with the catering." Robert turned to the intern with a calm and reassuring demeanor. "Don't worry, Sarah. Let's see what we can do to help," he excused himself politely, leaving Mr. Harris stunned by his approachability and ease with others. Lisa initiated a heartfelt conversation with Mrs. Harris, skillfully weaving questions about her family and personal interests. As Lisa spoke with genuine curiosity and warmth, Mr. Harris watched with growing admiration. He observed how his wife, who had initially been reserved, relaxed and laughed easily at Lisa's gentle humor. The ease with which Lisa engaged Mrs. Harris highlighted her skill in making people feel comfortable and valued. Throughout the evening, Mr. Harris attentively observed the Thompsons as they interacted with both guests and employees. Their approach was striking. They remembered names, asked thoughtful questions about family, and displayed a sincere interest in everyone they encountered. The respect they garnered was palpable, but it was clear that this respect stemmed not from a position of authority, but from a deep well of kindness and integrity. As the night wore on, Mr. Harris found himself grappling with a re-evaluation of his previously held beliefs about the Thompsons. The prejudices he once considered well-founded now seemed increasingly fragile and unfounded. He felt a twinge of shame for his earlier judgments and actions, realizing how his perceptions had been colored by misconceptions. Later in the evening, Mr. Harris found himself standing near a window with Robert Thompson, gazing out at the city lights. Each held a glass of sparkling water, and the quiet ambience allowed for a reflective conversation. "Your company appears to be thriving, Mr. Harris remarked, attempting to maintain a neutral tone. Robert, with a humble smile, acknowledged the observation. "Yes, we've been fortunate," he agreed. "But success isn't solely about financial gain. It's much more than that." Mr. Harris, intrigued by this perspective, raised an eyebrow. "Oh, Could you elaborate? If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 4 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Robert took a thoughtful sip of his drink before continuing. Lisa and I decided early on that we wanted our boys to grasp the value of hard work and simplicity. Mr. Harris was puzzled. But with your level of success, wouldn't it be tempting to pursue a more opulent lifestyle? He asked, recalling the modest home he had seen. Robert's eyes sparkled with a serene wisdom. We could choose a more luxurious lifestyle, but we deliberately opt not to. Our home may be modest, but it is filled with love and warmth. We want our boys to understand that true wealth is not measured by material possessions, but by what lies within. Mr. Harris felt a pang of guilt as he reflected on his hasty judgments regarding the Thompsons' rental application. "That's truly admirable," he said softly, genuinely moved. Robert nodded and continued, "We believe in leading by example. Our boys see us working diligently and giving back to our community. We want them to learn that real success encompasses more than just accumulating wealth." As Robert spoke, Mr. Harris found himself rethinking his values. He considered his son Mark and the impression the Thompsons family dynamic had made on him. "Don't you worry that your children might miss out on certain experiences?" "Mr. Harris asked, revealing a concern he hadn't fully acknowledged before. Robert shook his head, his expression calm and assured. "Miss out on what? They have all they need: love, education, and strong values. We're teaching them to be kind, to work hard, and to support others. To us, that is the greatest form of wealth we can offer them." Mr. Harris fell silent, deeply contemplating Robert's words. He reflected on his own life, his grand house, his luxury cars, and for the first time, he questioned whether he had been measuring success incorrectly. The following evening, Mr. Harris sat in his study, lost in contemplation. The conversation with Robert Thompson had touched a profound chord within him. As he gazed out the window, he heard a gentle knock on the door. "Come in," he called out, and Mark entered with a concerned look. "Dad, is everything all right? You've been unusually quiet since the event." Mr. Harris sighed and gestured for Mark to sit. "Mark, I've been reflecting on our values and what truly matters in life." Mark, intrigued, leaned forward. "What are you thinking, Dad?" Mr. Harris took a deep breath. "I've always believed that success was defined by wealth, status, and surrounding ourselves with influential people. But now, I'm not so sure." Mark nodded, sensing his father's internal struggle. "Tell me more about the Thompsons, Mr. Harris requested softly. "What is it about them that impresses you so much?" Mark's face lit up with enthusiasm. "Dad, they're incredible. Robert and Lisa are so humble despite their success. And their boys, you should see how respectful and hardworking they are," Mark continued, his admiration evident. "The Thompsons don't just preach values, they live them. They instill in their children that true wealth comes from kindness and contributing to others' well-being. It's genuinely inspiring." Mr. Harris listened attentively, absorbing the profound impact the Thompsons had made on his son. As he pondered Mark's words, he felt a growing realization that perhaps he needed to redefine what success truly meant in his own life. Mr. Harris nodded slowly, his mind racing with the weight of recent revelations. "I think I've been measuring success all wrong," he said quietly, the words heavy with introspection. "Maybe it's time I redefine what truly matters." The following week marked the beginning of Mr. Harris's journey towards transformation. He decided to volunteer at a local community center, dedicating his skills and resources to those who were struggling. He began to dismantle the walls he had built around himself, reaching out to people he had previously overlooked or judged harshly. As the weeks turned into months, Mr. Harris experienced a profound internal shift. His interactions with others began to reflect a newfound authenticity, and his sense of purpose became more focused and meaningful. He discovered joy in the act of helping those around him and felt a deeper connection with his community. The lessons he had absorbed from the Thompsons had fundamentally changed him, instilling a greater sense of compassion and understanding. As a result, his relationship with his son improved significantly, characterized by a newfound respect and openness. One evening, as Mr. Harris and Mark sat together reflecting on the changes that had taken place, Mark remarked, "Dad, I've noticed how much happier you seem these days, Mr. Harris, with a warm smile and a heart full of gratitude, replied, "It's true, Mark. I've come to realize that true wealth isn't found in possessions or social status, but in the connections we form and the kindness we extend." Mark nodded, a proud smile spreading across his face. "I'm glad you see that, Dad. It means the world to me." Mr. Harris was struck by the stark contrast between the simple home the Thompsons had built on the outskirts of town and his previous narrow-mindedness. He reflected on how different things might have been if he had given them a chance. Overwhelmed by regret, he sank into his chair, burying his face in his hands. He had always taken pride in being a successful businessman and a pillar of the community, but now he recognized the hollowness of those achievements. What was the value of wealth if it came at the expense of one's humanity? "I've been so wrong," he murmured, tears brimming in his eyes. So wrong as the reality of his past actions settled in, Mr. Harris was engulfed by a profound sense of loss. He had missed the opportunity to know a remarkable family and to enrich his community with their presence. More significantly, he had deprived himself of personal growth and the chance to overcome his prejudices. The guilt was overwhelming, yet it was accompanied by a glimmer of hope, a desire to make amends and to become a better person. For the first time in years, Mr. Harris felt a spark of hope that it wasn't too late to change and learn from his mistakes. Meanwhile, Robert and Mark sat in the company's break room, sharing a quiet moment over steaming cups of coffee. The clamor of the office seemed a distant memory as Robert leaned in, his voice carrying a tone of sincerity and nostalgia. "You know, Mark," Robert began, his eyes reflecting a past filled with struggle and perseverance, "building our home wasn't easy. There were times when we were on the verge of giving up." Mark, absorbed in the conversation, forgot about his coffee as he listened intently. Robert continued, "After your father turned down our rental application, we were devastated. But Lisa, bless her heart, she said, 'Robert, we'll build our own home. It might not be perfect, but it will be filled with love, and that's what truly matters.'" Mark felt a pang of guilt at the mention of his father but remained silent, eager to hear more. "We found a plot of land on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, but it was ours," Robert said, a small, nostalgic smile playing on his lips. "Every evening after work, I would go there to clear the land. The boys would join me when they could, even little Caleb, who tried to carry twigs bigger than himself." Robert's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he continued, "There were nights when my hands were so blistered I could barely hold a fork, but Lisa would tend to my wounds, and we would all gather to pray, thanking God for the blessings we had." The stories of struggle and perseverance underscored the profound impact of kindness and connection, themes that resonated deeply with both Mr. Harris and Mark as they reflected on their own experiences and the changes they had embraced. Mark felt a lump forming in his throat, the weight of the moment settling heavily on him. He could vividly picture the Thompsons, united in their struggle, facing each challenge with remarkable grace and determination. Robert's voice was barely above a whisper as he continued, "The hardest part was when the first winter storm hit. We hadn't finished the roof yet. I'll never forget huddling with Lisa and the boys under a tarp, rain leaking through, all of us shivering with the cold." Mark's heart ached at the vivid image Robert painted with his words. The thought of the Thompsons enduring such hardship together was both moving and humbling. Mark reached out, placing a comforting hand on Robert's shoulder, a gesture of solidarity and support. But you know what Robert said, his voice gaining strength as he spoke. Not once did we ever consider giving up. Every setback and every challenge we faced only made us more determined. And when we finally moved in, it wasn't just a house, it was a home we had built with our own hands, with our love and our faith. It was a testament to our resilience and our commitment to each other. Mark felt overwhelmed by the Thompson family's resilience. Their unwavering spirit in the face of adversity touched him deeply. He realized that true strength wasn't about material wealth or social status, but about facing life's challenges with dignity, perseverance, and love. As Mark stood in the kitchen of the Harris family home, nervously adjusting the silverware on the dining table, he glanced over at his father, Mr. Harris, who was pacing back and forth in the living room, lost in anxious thought. "Dad, relax," Mark said softly, trying to offer reassurance. "They're just people like us." Mr. Harris stopped pacing and turned to look at his son. His eyes were filled with a mix of anxiety and determination. "I know, son. I want to make things right. I want to show them that we genuinely appreciate their presence." The sound of the doorbell cut through the tension, causing both men to jump slightly. Mark took a deep breath, steadying himself, and went to answer the door. As he opened it, he was greeted by the warm, welcoming smiles of the Thompson family. "Welcome," Mark said, his voice filled with genuine happiness and relief. "Please come in." Robert and Lisa Thompson entered first, followed by their 4 boys Ethan, Noah, Jacob, and Caleb. Each of them carried a dish, and the air was soon filled with the delicious aromas of their home-cooked meal. Mr. Harris stepped forward, his hands slightly trembling with nervousness and emotion. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson," he said, his voice thick with heartfelt emotion, "I'm so glad you could join us tonight." Robert extended his hand in a gesture of warmth and understanding. "Thank you for having us, Mr. Harris. We're honored to be here." As they shook hands, Mr. Harris felt a wave of shame wash over him. He remembered his past prejudices and the pain he had caused this family. Yet, in Robert's eyes, he saw no judgment, only genuine warmth and acceptance. Lisa stepped forward, holding out a homemade apple pie. "We hope you like dessert," she said with a gentle, inviting smile. Mr. Harris accepted the pie, feeling his eyes mist over with emotion. "That's very kind of you. Thank you." As they moved to the dining room, the Harris home began to come alive with the lively chatter and laughter of the Thompson boys. Caleb, the youngest, tugged on Mr. Harris's sleeve with wide, innocent eyes. "Mr. Harris," Caleb said earnestly, "did you know that my daddy built our whole house?" Mr. Harris knelt to Caleb's level, his heart heavy with the weight of the knowledge of what this family had endured because of his past actions. "Is that so?" he said softly, trying to hold back his emotions. "Your daddy must be very skilled and hard-working." Caleb nodded enthusiastically, his eyes shining with pride. "He is, and Mommy says our house is special cause it's built with love." If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 5 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Mr. Harris felt a lump form in his throat once more. He looked up at Robert and Lisa, who were watching the interaction with gentle, understanding smiles. At that moment, he recognized the true strength of the family he had once judged so harshly. The realization struck him profoundly: strength was not found in wealth or status, but in enduring life's trials with resilience, love, and integrity. As everyone took their seats at the table, Mr. Harris cleared his throat, his voice trembling slightly. "Before we begin," he said, "I'd like to say something." Throughout the dinner, the conversation flowed easily around the table. The Thompson boys shared amusing stories about their school adventures and hobbies, while Mark and Lisa discussed their work at the luxury car company. Mr. Harris, however, found himself deeply engaged in conversation with Robert Thompson. "You know, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Harris began thoughtfully, his voice soft and sincere. "I must admit I'm genuinely impressed by the values you've instilled in your family. The strength, the love, and the unity you've demonstrated are truly admirable. It's something I've come to deeply respect and learn from." The evening continued with warmth and newfound understanding, and Mr. Harris felt a sense of relief and hope for the future, thanks to the resilience and grace of the Thompson family. Robert's face lit up with a warm and genuine smile. "Thank you, Mr. Harris," he said sincerely. "Lisa and I have always believed that strong, steadfast values form the very foundation of a fulfilling and meaningful life." Mr. Harris, who had been listening intently, nodded with a look of newfound respect in his eyes. "I can certainly see that. Your boys are incredibly well-mannered and ambitious. What's your secret to raising them so well?" Robert paused for a moment, taking a thoughtful sip of his water before responding. "It's not always straightforward," he admitted candidly, "but we adhere to a principle of leading by example. We strive to demonstrate the importance of hard work, kindness, and humility in our daily lives." As Robert spoke, Mr. Harris found himself leaning forward, absorbing each word with increasing interest. He began to reflect on his own life and the choices he had made, feeling a pang of regret as he did so. Mr. Harris, genuinely curious, shifted the topic slightly. "And what about your decision to live simply?" he asked. "You're the owner of a successful company, yet you choose a modest lifestyle. What motivates that choice?" Robert's eyes sparkled with a soft, knowing light as he glanced at his wife and sons. "Our goal is to teach our boys that true wealth isn't measured by money or material possessions. It's about the strength of family bonds, the value of community, and the impact we make in the world." As Mr. Harris listened, he felt something stirring within him. He surveyed the lively, engaged group around the table and realized he was witnessing not merely a family, but a vibrant community, a community he had once been hesitant to embrace. "A community, Mr. Harris repeated softly, almost to himself. "I'm starting to understand just how significant that is." Robert nodded in agreement, his expression serious yet kind. "A strong community uplifts everyone," he said. "When we support one another, despite our differences, we all stand to benefit." As their conversation continued, Mr. Harris felt a profound respect growing for Robert Thompson. He saw in Robert a man of deep integrity, wisdom, and compassion, qualities that transcended superficial differences. As the dinner drew to a close, a reflective hush settled over the table. Mr. Harris cleared his throat, his voice tinged with emotion. Looking at Robert and Lisa Thompson, his heart was heavy with the weight of his past actions. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "I owe both of you a heartfelt apology." The Thompsons exchanged a glance of surprise, while Mark watched with a look of curiosity. Mr. Harris took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts before continuing. "When you applied to rent one of my properties, I rejected your application, and I did so for all the wrong reasons." Lisa gently placed her hand on Robert's arm, offering him silent support. "I was prejudiced, Mr. Harris confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I judged you based on the color of your skin rather than the content of your character. And for that, I am profoundly sorry." As Mr. Harris spoke, tears began to well up in his eyes. "Getting to know you and your family has been an eye-opener for me. You've exemplified what true integrity, kindness, and family values truly mean. I am deeply ashamed of my previous actions, and I hope you can find it in your hearts to forgive me." For a moment, the room fell into a thoughtful silence. Robert and Lisa exchanged a wordless, yet profound glance. Finally, Robert turned to Mr. Harris with a gentle, understanding smile. "Mr. Harris, we genuinely appreciate your apology. It takes considerable courage to admit one's mistakes, and we are thankful for your honesty." Lisa nodded with a reassuring smile. "We forgive you, Mr. Harris. Everyone makes mistakes, and what truly matters is that we're here now, sharing a meal and learning from each other." Mark observed the exchange with a blend of relief and admiration. He watched as his father began to confront his prejudices, feeling a surge of hope for the future and the possibility of positive change. As the evening drew to a close, Mr. Harris experienced a profound sense of peace. Although he knew that the journey ahead would be long and challenging, he felt a crucial first step had been made. He had faced his past, sought forgiveness, and began the process of bridging gaps where walls once stood. For the first time in a long while, Mr. Harris felt the burdens of his past lifting, replaced by a renewed sense of hope and purpose. Meanwhile, the Thompson family gathered around their dinner table, their faces bathed in the warm glow of the chandelier. The boys chattered excitedly about their day, their laughter filling the room. Yet Robert and Lisa's thoughts were preoccupied with the recent rejection letter from Mr. Harris. The dream of their new home seemed further out of reach than ever, casting a shadow over their evening. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, cutting through their conversation. Robert stood up, puzzled, and went to answer it. To his astonishment, Mr. Harris was standing on the doorstep, a look of sincere remorse etched on his face. "Mr. Harris," Robert asked, his voice tinged with confusion and caution. Mr. Harris took a deep breath, his heart racing with a mix of anxiety and determination. "I came to apologize," he began, his voice quivering slightly. "I realize now that rejecting your application was a mistake. It was wrong of me to judge you based on race. I want to make things right." Robert's eyes widened in surprise, and Lisa's hand flew to her mouth in astonishment. "We're truly sorry for any hurt we caused, Mr. Harris continued earnestly. "After speaking with my son, I've come to see things differently. I want to offer you a place in one of my properties, and I hope you'll give us a chance to make amends." The Thompson family exchanged looks, a whirlwind of emotions crossing their faces. "Thank you for your apology, Mr. Harris," Robert said finally, his voice calm yet firm. "We appreciate it. However, it's important for us that this is not merely about property. It's about respect, fairness, and genuine change." Mr. Harris nodded, his eyes reflecting a deep sincerity. "I understand completely. I'm committed to earning your trust and demonstrating that my change of heart is genuine with that." He left, leaving the Thompsons to process the unexpected and complex turn of events. In the weeks following his encounter with the Thompson family, Mr. Harris underwent a profound transformation. His newfound humility and commitment to more inclusive business practices did not go unnoticed by his longtime business partners. One crisp morning, Mr. Harris arrived at his office to find an unexpected board meeting already in progress. As he entered the room, conversations ceased abruptly, and all eyes were fixed on him. The atmosphere was charged with tension and unspoken reproach. Harris began his senior partner, Mr. Jameson, his tone stern. "We need to discuss the direction of this company, Mr. Harris took a seat, his heart pounding in his chest. He listened as his partners voiced their concerns: falling property values, decreased exclusivity, and a tarnished reputation. Each critique felt like a personal blow. "Your new approach is costing us money, Mr. Jameson said bluntly. "We cannot afford to indulge in sentimentality, Mr. Harris tried to articulate the importance of diversity and inclusion, but his words seemed to fall on deaf ears. His partners perceived his change of heart as a liability, compromising their bottom line. After a heated exchange, the decision was made: Mr. Harris would be forced out of the company he had built from the ground up. The realization hit him with crushing force. As he packed up his office, his hands trembling, he contemplated the financial ramifications. His wealth was intricately tied to the company, and now he faced significant financial loss. The comfortable life he had known was slipping away, leaving him with a profound sense of uncertainty. But the financial loss was not the only blow. As news of his ousting spread, Mr. Harris found himself ostracized by many in his social circle. People he had considered friends for years now avoided his calls, and invitations to social events evaporated. The personal rejection stung even more acutely than the financial setback. Mr. Harris, once a proud and influential landlord, now faced each day with growing uncertainty and fear. The world he had built had crumbled, leaving him feeling adrift and profoundly alone. One particularly gloomy afternoon, as Mr. Harris sat in the stillness of his now quiet home, the phone rang, cutting through the silence. He hesitated, contemplating whether to answer it. He feared it might be another call bearing rejection or sympathy, but something inside him nudged him to pick up the receiver. "Hello," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, betraying his weariness. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 6 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. "Mr. Harris, it's Robert Thompson," came the voice from the other end. The concern in Robert's tone was unexpected and genuine, catching Mr. Harris off guard. He felt a lump form in his throat, momentarily paralyzing him. I'm not sure," he finally managed to reply, his voice trembling slightly. Robert's warm and comforting voice continued. "Lisa and I were wondering if you'd like to join us for dinner tonight. No pressure at all, but we thought you might appreciate some company." Mr. Harris hesitated, the offer conflicting with his internal struggle. But to his surprise, he found himself accepting the invitation. That evening, Mr. Harris found himself sitting at the Thompsons' modest yet inviting dining table. The aroma of home-cooked food wafted through the air, and the lively chatter of the Thompson boys provided a soothing backdrop. As they ate, Robert and Lisa, with gentle encouragement, prompted Mr. Harris to share his struggles. Their empathy and sincere concern deeply moved him. "You know, Mr. Harris," Lisa said softly, her words carrying a reassuring warmth, "sometimes life throws us unexpected challenges to teach us important lessons. This is just a bump in the road. You'll get through this." Robert nodded in agreement, his voice steady with reassurance. "And you're not alone. We're here to support you in any way we can." Mr. Harris felt tears welling up in his eyes as he absorbed the kindness from the Thompsons, a family he had once turned away. The overwhelming warmth and support from them provided him with a glimmer of hope he hadn't felt in a long time. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't deserve your kindness, but I'm profoundly grateful for it." The Thompsons assured him that everyone deserves kindness and a second chance. They encouraged him to remain positive and offered their support in any way he might need, reinforcing their commitment to helping him through this difficult time. In the weeks that followed, Mr. Harris found himself at a crucial crossroads. The loss of his company and the wealth that had defined his life left him feeling adrift and uncertain. However, the compassion of the Thompson family had ignited a seed of hope within him. He recognized that he needed to discover a new purpose, one that would allow him to make amends for his past mistakes and contribute meaningfully to his community. One day, as Mr. Harris perused the local newspaper, he came across an advertisement for a job opening at the community center. The position was for someone to help coordinate volunteer efforts and outreach programs. Without a moment's hesitation, he decided to apply. To his surprise and delight, he was offered the position. The role was a far cry from his former life as a wealthy landlord, but as Mr. Harris walked into the bustling community center on his first day, he felt a sense of excitement and fulfillment that had eluded him for years. The job was straightforward yet deeply rewarding. Mr. Harris found himself involved in organizing food drives, coordinating after-school programs for underprivileged children, and setting up job fairs for those in need. Each day presented new challenges and opportunities to positively impact people's lives. As he worked alongside volunteers from various walks of life, Mr. Harris began to see the world through a different lens. He listened to stories of struggle, triumph, hardship, and hope. The diversity of the community he had once shunned became a source of strength and inspiration. One of his favorite responsibilities was organizing diversity workshops and equality seminars. Mr. Harris devoted himself to researching and planning these events, driven by a determination to help others learn from his own mistakes. He shared his personal story of transformation, hoping it would inspire others to confront and overcome their own biases and prejudices. As the weeks turned into months, Mr. Harris experienced a profound sense of fulfillment in his new role. The joy of witnessing a child smile when they received a warm meal, the gratitude in a job seeker's eyes when they found employment, and the camaraderie among volunteers working toward a common goal filled his heart with immense satisfaction. He often reflected on his conversation with the Thompsons, recognizing that this bump in the road had indeed imparted invaluable lessons. Though his life had become simpler, it was now rich with purpose and meaning. As the seasons changed, the Thompson boys became familiar faces at the community center. Ethan, Noah, Jacob, and Caleb would frequently drop by after school, eager to lend a hand and learn from Mr. Harris's experiences. Mr. Harris's face would light up every time he saw the boys walk through the door. Their vibrant energy and enthusiasm were contagious, breathing new life into the center's activities. Ethan, the eldest, developed a keen interest in the job fairs organized by Mr. Harris. He eagerly assisted with setting up booths and warmly greeted job seekers, displaying a maturity and dedication that impressed everyone. Mr. Harris appreciated Ethan's contribution, recognizing the boy's growing sense of responsibility and engagement. Through this new chapter in his life, Mr. Harris discovered a renewed sense of belonging and purpose. The lessons he absorbed from the Thompsons and the community were transformative, and he was determined to carry those lessons forward, striving to make a positive impact wherever he could. Noah, with his artistic flair, took on the task of creating colorful posters for upcoming events. His creations brightened the center's walls, infusing the space with vibrancy and excitement. His artistic touch not only enhanced the center's appearance, but also attracted more community members to its activities. Jacob, always bursting with energy, became a whirlwind of activity during food drives. He raced around, efficiently organizing donations and packing boxes with impressive speed. His boundless enthusiasm and efficiency made the food drives run smoothly and effectively, ensuring that many families received the help they needed. Caleb, the youngest, had a gentle way with the smaller children who came to the after-school programs. He patiently assisted them with their homework and read them stories with a warmth that made the children feel cared for and supported. His interactions with the younger kids reflected the nurturing qualities instilled in him by his parents. Mr. Harris marveled at how each boy contributed their unique talents to the center. He saw in them the values their parents had instilled: kindness, humility, and a genuine desire to help others. One afternoon, as they were cleaning up after a particularly busy day, Mr. Harris paused to observe the boys at work. Ethan was demonstrating to Noah how to fold tables properly, while Jacob and Caleb were sweeping the floor, turning it into a game to see who could gather the most dust. "You boys are a true blessing, Mr. Harris said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what we'd do without you here." The boys' faces lit up with pride at his words, their smiles reflecting their sense of accomplishment. "We love helping out," Ethan responded earnestly. "It feels good to make a difference, Mr. Harris nodded, feeling a lump form in his throat. He thought back to the day he had rejected their family's rental application, overwhelmed with shame for his past prejudices. Now these same boys, whom he had once sought to exclude, were bringing immense joy and purpose to his life. As the days turned into weeks, Mr. Harris found himself settling into a new rhythm at the community center. The simple life he now embraced was a stark contrast to his previous existence as a wealthy landlord, but he discovered a richness in it that he had never known before. Each morning, he would rise early, brew a pot of coffee, and walk to the center with a sense of contentment. The familiar faces he passed on the street greeted him warmly, and he responded with genuine smiles. This interaction was a far cry from the aloof nods he used to offer when he was solely focused on his business empire. At the center, Mr. Harris immersed himself in his daily activities. He organized literacy classes for adults, assisted with job search workshops, and even started a small vegetable garden in the back lot. The work was hands-on and often tiring, but it filled him with a profound sense of purpose and fulfillment that he had never experienced before. One day, as he was tending to the tomato plants in the garden, Mrs. Johnson, an elderly regular at the center, approached him with a twinkle in her eye. "Mr. Harris," she said warmly, "I never thought I'd see the day when you'd have dirt under your fingernails." Mr. Harris looked up, his hands covered in soil, and chuckled. "It's amazing what you can discover when you step outside your comfort zone," he replied, a genuine smile spreading across his face. Mrs. Johnson nodded in agreement, her eyes reflecting the pride and admiration she felt for his transformation. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of the community and the vibrant energy of the Thompson boys, Mr. Harris realized that he had found something far more valuable than material wealth. He had discovered the true meaning of connection, purpose, and the joy of giving back to those around him. Mr. Harris chuckled softly, casting a glance at his soil-stained hands. "Neither did I, Mrs. Johnson. But I must admit I find myself quite enjoying it." They continued their conversation, discussing the intricacies of the garden and the anticipation building around the upcoming community potluck. As Mrs. Johnson made her way down the path, Mr. Harris paused to reflect on how much he treasured these simple, everyday interactions. In his previous life, he had been a master of maintaining distance, treating relationships more as transactions than genuine connections. Now, he found immense joy in the sincere bonds he was forming. The community potluck was a shining example of this newfound joy. Arriving with a dish of roasted vegetables harvested from the center's garden, Mr. Harris stepped into the lively community hall. He was met with a cascade of cheerful greetings and genuine smiles from familiar faces. The hall buzzed with energy. Children darted around, their laughter echoing through the space, while adults engaged in animated conversations in clustered groups. Mr. Harris soon found himself participating in discussions ranging from the latest local sports scores to cherished family recipes for apple pie. That evening, he laughed more heartily than he had in years, experiencing a profound sense of fulfillment that had eluded him during his days of wealth and status. As he assisted with the post-event cleanup, Mr. Harris noticed his reflection in a nearby window. The image staring back at him was that of a man who appeared not only happier but also more relaxed and youthful than the stern businessman he once was. He realized that in losing his fortune, he had gained something far more precious: a supportive community, genuine friendships, and a renewed sense of purpose. In the weeks that followed, Mark Harris observed the remarkable transformation in his father. The once distant and intimidating Mr. Harris had evolved into a person brimming with warmth and compassion. Mark felt a deep sense of pride every time he saw his father interacting with others, and it was evident that Mr. Harris had discovered a new, enriching chapter in his life. On a bright, sunny afternoon, Mark decided to surprise his father with an impromptu visit to the community center. As he approached the familiar building, he spotted Mr. Harris kneeling in the garden, meticulously demonstrating to a group of eager children the art of planting seedlings. The sight was so touching that it brought an unexpected lump to Mark's throat. "Dad," Mark called out, his voice carrying a mix of excitement and affection as he waved enthusiastically. Mr. Harris looked up from his work, and his face immediately brightened into a broad, welcoming smile. "Mark, what a wonderful surprise," he exclaimed, standing up slowly and brushing the dirt from his knees with a satisfied grin. Mark walked over and wrapped his arms around his father, not bothering to worry about the soil that smudged onto his clothes. "I thought I'd drop by and check in on you," he said, his tone rich with warmth and genuine care. Mr. Harris's pride was evident as he beamed and began to give Mark a tour of the center. He introduced Mark to the friendly faces he had come to know, the regulars who had become like family, and the staff members who ran the various programs with such enthusiasm. Mark listened attentively as his father spoke passionately about the different initiatives at the center. His heart swelled with admiration for how Mr. Harris had thrown himself into this new role, dedicating his time and energy to making a difference in the community. Later, as they sat side by side on a bench outside, basking in the gentle warmth of the late afternoon sun, Mark turned to his father with a heartfelt expression. "Dad, I just want you to know how incredibly proud I am of you," he said, his voice thick with emotion and sincerity. "The way you've embraced this new chapter in your life is truly inspiring." Mr. Harris's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he reached over and clasped Mark's hand gently. "Thank you, son. Your support and understanding mean more to me than I can express," he said, his voice catching slightly. For a few moments, they sat together in comfortable silence, simply enjoying each other's presence and reflecting on their journey. Their relationship, once strained by Mr. Harris's steadfast beliefs and Mark's difficulty in connecting with him, had evolved into something deeply meaningful and strong. The bond they now shared was a testament to their growth and mutual respect. "You know, Mr. Harris said softly, his voice carrying the weight of newfound wisdom, "I used to measure success by the amount of wealth I accumulated and the status I could attain. But over time, I've come to understand that true success isn't found in material possessions or social standing. It's discovered in the connections we forge with others and the positive impact we have on their lives." Mark listened intently, feeling a profound sense of connection with his father. He nodded in agreement, his heart warmed by Mr. Harris's revelation. "I couldn't agree more, Dad. And you're truly making a difference in so many lives here." As the weeks rolled into months, the transformation in Mr. Harris became increasingly evident to everyone around him. The once aloof and stern landlord had evolved into a familiar and beloved presence at the community center. His dedication to fostering equality and assisting those in need became apparent in every action he took. The whispers of his past prejudices were replaced by words of respect and admiration from the community. Mrs. Johnson, a longtime resident of the neighborhood, couldn't contain her surprise as she spoke to a friend one afternoon. "You know, I never imagined I'd see the day when old Mr. Harris would become the heart and soul of this community. But just look at him now. It's truly remarkable." If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 8 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Mr. Harris's efforts were visible everywhere. He could frequently be found engaging in conversations with residents from all walks of life, listening to their stories, and offering support whenever possible. He organized food drives for those facing food insecurity, established mentorship programs for at-risk youth, and even initiated a community garden where people came together to grow fresh produce. The Thompson boys, Ethan, Noah, Jacob, and Caleb, were among his most enthusiastic volunteers. Inspired by Mr. Harris's dedication, they often brought their friends to the center, spreading a message of unity and acceptance throughout their school. One day, while Mr. Harris was busily preparing for a multicultural festival at the center, he overheard two teenagers chatting nearby. "Man, Mr. Harris is so cool," one remarked. "Remember how everyone used to be scared of him?" "Yeah," the other replied with a grin. "Now he's like the grandpa everyone wishes they had." Mr. Harris felt a profound warmth in his chest as he absorbed these words. He realized that his journey of growth had not only transformed his own life, but was also creating a ripple effect throughout the entire community. As the festival commenced, Mr. Harris stood back, surveying the vibrant scene before him. The community center was alive with colorful decorations, with banners proclaiming "Celebrating Our Diversity" hung proudly from the ceiling. Tables laden with dishes from a variety of cultures lined the perimeter of the room. He had poured weeks of effort into planning this event, determined to make it a memorable celebration of unity and inclusivity. As guests began to arrive, Mr. Harris greeted each one with a warm smile and a handshake. He delighted in watching his families from different backgrounds mingled, sharing stories and laughter. The air was filled with the enticing aromas of diverse foods and the harmonious sounds of multicultural music. When the Thompson family arrived, Mr. Harris's face lit up with genuine joy. He hurried over to greet them with open arms. "Robert, Lisa," he said, his voice brimming with emotion, "thank you so much for coming. You're our guests of honor this evening." Robert grasped Mr. Harris's hand firmly. "We wouldn't have missed it for the world, John," he said, using Mr. Harris's first name with the familiarity of a dear friend. Lisa added with a twinkle in her eye, "This is wonderful. Just look at how many people have come together." The community center was indeed filled. People of all ages and backgrounds were animatedly chatting, their faces glowing with joy and curiosity. The Thompson boys quickly joined their friends in the crowd, eager to partake in and contribute to the festivities. As the evening wore on, Mr. Harris took to the small stage set up at one end of the room. He tapped the microphone, and the room fell silent in anticipation. "Friends, neighbors," he began, his voice resonating clearly and powerfully, "I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to every one of you for being here tonight. This event is about more than just enjoying good food and music. It's about celebrating the rich and diverse tapestry of our community." He paused, letting his gaze sweep over the room before settling on the Thompson family. "I'd like to extend a special thanks to the Thompson family. Their kindness and willingness to forgive have taught me the true essence of community and acceptance. They've shown me that our differences should not be feared but embraced and celebrated." Mr. Harris's words were met with a wave of applause and cheers, a testament to the unity and appreciation that now defined the community he had once distanced himself from. A round of applause erupted, filling the room with a vibrant energy that made Mr. Harris's heart swell with deep gratitude. As he descended from the stage, he was immediately enveloped in a flurry of handshakes, heartfelt hugs, and effusive words of appreciation from the attendees. The evening's event had not only been a resounding success, but also marked a significant turning point for the entire community. As the night drew to a close and the crowd began to thin, Mr. Harris found himself seated at a table with the Thompson family. The bustling activity of the center had quieted to a gentle hum, with only a few dedicated volunteers tidying up the remnants of the celebration. The warmth and satisfaction from the evening's achievements still lingered in the air, creating a sense of serene contentment. Robert Thompson lifted his glass of lemonade in a toast. "To new beginnings and true friendship," he said, his eyes shining with sincerity. The clinking of glasses was accompanied by broad smiles and shared laughter as everyone at the table joined in the toast. Mr. Harris felt a lump form in his throat as he looked around at the faces that had become so dear to him over the past months. Lisa, with her warm and kind eyes, leaned forward, her gaze fixed on Mr. Harris. "John, we can't thank you enough for organizing this event. It's brought the entire community together in a way I've never seen before." Mr. Harris shook his head with humility, his voice thick with emotion. "I should be the one thanking you. Your family has shown me what truly matters in life. You've taught me the profound value of compassion and humility." Ethan, the oldest of the Thompson boys, interjected with a grin. "Mr. Harris, remember when we first started volunteering at the community center? You were so nervous about everything." Everyone around the table laughed, and Mr. Harris joined in, his laughter mingling with theirs. "Oh, I was a complete mess," he admitted with a chuckle. "But you boys were incredibly patient with me. You taught this old dog some new tricks." Noah, the second oldest, leaned back in his chair with a broad grin. "And now look at you. You're like the heart of the community center." Mr. Harris felt a profound sense of accomplishment and belonging as he reflected on the journey he had undergone. The evening had transformed from a simple event into a celebration of unity, friendship, and shared purpose, marking a new chapter, not just in his life but in the lives of everyone involved. Thank you for joining us on this heartwarming journey through Mr. Harris's transformation and the powerful impact of community and compassion. I hope you found inspiration in the story of how embracing change and fostering connections can bring about true fulfillment and joy. As we reflect on this tale, I'd love to hear from you. What have you learned from Mr. Harris's journey? Is there one lesson or insight that you're excited to bring into your own life? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us continue to create meaningful and uplifting content. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing your reflections and insights.